Non, je n'ai aucune information. Quel genre d'information vous aimeriez avoir?
Est-ce que le président quitte ce moment?
Je crois que c'est pas à moi de poser cette question.
On a vu un camion de militaires là, qui rentrait il y a quelques minutes. C'est pas normal, ça, c'est pas ce qui se fait d'habitude.
Mais non, c'est un endroit où il y a beaucoup de militaires. D'ailleurs, c'est un aéroport.
Vous attendez rien de spécial ce soir là?
Mais non.
Et pourquoi des militaires à cette heure-ci spécifiquement?
Ici, nous sommes sécurité de l'aéroport.
En fait, nous faisons partie de la sécurité de l'aéroport. Vous comprenez?
Mais enfin, il y a un peu plus d'animation ce soir que d'habitude.
Je m'excuse, je n'ai aucune information à vous donner, d'accord?
Ok.
Actuellement, la seule chose que je peux vous dire, vous ne pouvez pas rester là à cette heure-ci. Vous comprenez? Hein? Non, non, non. L'aéroport, c'est un endroit stratégique. Vous comprenez? Vous ne pouvez pas rester là à cette heure-ci, d'accord?
Est-ce qu'on peut aller, comme madame responsable, vous nous donnez un conseil? On vous demande un conseil. Où est-ce qu'on va aller?
Quel conseil vous aimeriez que vous lui donniez?
Où est-ce qu'on va aller?
Mais où étiez-vous avant?
On était là, à l'aéroport.
Ah bon, c'est à l'aéroport que vous habitez?
Non, mais on a de forces. Non, mais on a ici parce qu'on va informer les gens sur ce qui se passe.
Voilà, mais moi personnellement, je n'ai aucune information à vous donner.
Vous attendez quelque chose de spécial quand même?
Non. Quel genre de... De quoi vous voulez parler?
Est-ce que le président Duvalier va partir ce soir? Non mais dites-le, j'ai pas de commentaire.
Monsieur, il ne partait pas ce soir, le président.
Ah bon, on vous a dit que le président part ce soir?
Oh, monsieur, l'info.
Hein?
C'est ce qu'on dit à Washington.
Eh bien, allez demander à la personne qui vous a donné cette information. C'est pas à moi. Vous devez savoir que vous êtes responsable. Ok, je m'excuse. Ok, goodbye. Au revoir. Ah.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Président.
Le président est en train de partir là. Le président est en train de partir, commandant.
Je vous ai dit non.
On a vu maman Simone qui partait.
Où ça?
Dans la voiture.
C'est de l'hallucination, ça?
Il y a peut-être Théa aussi.
Oui, c'est de l'hallucination. Il y a une illusion d'optique.
Et la ligne. En tout cas, elle lui ressemble juste. C'était là, tu vois, la voiture aussi. C'était là.
Un militaire? Il y a constamment des civils qui passent.
Non, mais là c'était quelqu'un apparemment assuré, parce que c'était des coups. C'était le genre de coups. C'était peut-être Théa. Non, c'est pas Michel. There's a large car now over the arm. Baggage in it. There's a lot of baggage.
Look at it. Look at this bag. Back. Watch it. Protège le cadre. Attention. Mais non, c'est sa mère. Le bonhomme qui sort du gant, c'est un chien.
Depuis 8 heures du soir, c'est l'attente devant l'aéroport François Duvalier de Port-au-Prince. C'est aussi l'incrédulité des soldats qui gardent l'aéroport et qui manifestement refusent de croire que le président à vie puisse s'en aller. 23h50, les deux premières voitures. À l'intérieur, nous apercevons sans doute Maman Simone, la mère du président, ou bien Madame Bennett, sa belle-mère, mais aussi Théard, le beau-frère, extrêmement irrité par la présence des journalistes. Minuit 45, deux voitures, avec à leur bord des conseillers d'ambassade américaine. 2 heures du matin, la piste s'allume, un Boeing 727 atterrit. Un quart d'heure plus tard, à nouveau deux voitures, avec Joan Bennett, des enfants, des valises, des tableaux. Une dizaine de minutes après, c'est un C-141 américain qui atterrit à son tour. À 3h30, enfin, le cortège avec Jean Claude Duvalier et sa femme Michel, cigarette aux lèvres. Voilà, c'est la fin. Duvalier est parti, une page est tournée dans l'histoire d'Haïti. Cette nuit se termine 29 ans d'une des dictatures les plus féroces du monde occidental. Pourquoi un départ aussi rapide alors qu'on pensait que Jean Claude Duvalier avait repris la situation en main, sans doute en raison des pressions américaines. La situation dans le pays devenait difficile et les Américains ont préféré précéder une explosion possible. Les problèmes, en tout cas, restent devant pour Haïti. En effet, l'opposition n'est pas préparée, le gouvernement de transition aura une tâche difficile et les rancœurs risquent de s'exprimer dans la violence et le sang. Gonaïve, à 150 km au nord de Port-au-Prince. Entre la cathédrale et le monument à l'indépendance, des milliers de personnes venues de tout Haïti ont répondu à l'appel de l'Église catholique. En 1804, c'est ici qu'a été proclamée l'indépendance d'Haïti, après la défaite des troupes françaises. Le 28 novembre dernier, c'est ici qu'a démarré le mouvement de révolte qui a fait partir Jean Claude Duvalier. Aujourd'hui, Gonaïve est sacrée capitale de la deuxième indépendance d'Haïti. Une indépendance en bleu et rouge, le drapeau d'Haïti retrouvé après 28 ans de dictature, pendant lesquels avaient flotté sur le pays le noir et le rouge, les couleurs de Duvalier. Derrière cette deuxième indépendance, de nombreux prêtres, comme ce Français, depuis 34 ans dans les campagnes haïtiennes.
C'est une explosion, vous voyez bien, et que maintenant, le peuple qui fête son indépendance, c'est quand même un peuple qui commence à être conscientisé, qui en avait marre de ce régime-là. Duvalier a tout voulu écraser, l'Église, tout ce qui était valeurs humaines, valeurs, il a tout écrasé.
Monseigneur Gaillot, un des premiers à avoir engagé l'Église contre la dictature.
Oui, parce que l'Église catholique a rempli sa mission, qui est une mission de salut intégral de l'homme. Or, la libération de la dictature est partie constitutive du salut intégral de l'homme. Et c'est dans ce sens-là que l'Église est très heureuse de la situation de l'homme.
Maintenant, vous allez vous effacer devant les partis politiques?
Nous n'avons pas à nous effacer parce que nous n'avons jamais pris la place des partis politiques.
La politique s'épanouit déjà à Gonaïve. On discute durée de mandat présidentiel, constitution, les pétitions circulent contre le nouveau gouvernement.
Le président Duvalier est parti, mais toute la structure duvalieriste a demeure.
Alors que s'achève la messe, les jeunes enterrent symboliquement Jean Claude Duvalier. Il n'y a pas une semaine que l'ex-président avait quitté le pouvoir, et pourtant Haïti semble déjà être un autre pays.
Maintenant, le pays est en état de siège. L'armée est en train de disperser les gens. Je pense que c'est pour éviter les actes de sabotage et de pillage. C'est là mon intuition. Je ne sais pas si c'est les leurs. Mais de toute façon, leur acte, comme ils sont en train de prendre de nouvelles dispositions pour le maintien du pays, je ne sais pas s'ils vont continuer avec les mêmes systèmes de Duvalier.
Avec
They were called the Tonton Macoute. The name means boogeyman. A hardcore group of 20,000 Macouts kept the Haitian people in line and the Duvaliers in power.
Duvalier created a police state in Haiti. The Tonton Macouts, officially known as the Volunteers for National Security, were just like ESS under Hitler. They were given full power. They were only accountable to the presidency. And both François and Jean Claude Duvalier used to tell him in public rallies that you are the backbones of my government. You are entitled to do whatever you want.
For 3 years, Jean-Jacques Honorat ran the Haitian Center for Human Rights in New York. He was thrown out of Haiti in 1980 for criticizing the Duvalier regime. Now back from exile, he believes the Macouts may have killed as many as 100,000 people under Baby Doc.
Murder and denunciation were the instruments of terror. Killing was the only way for the regime to maintain what they call peace and stability, what was labeled, even in the American press, peace and stability. Remember that. And that's how you used to call the situation in Haiti, peace and stability, right?
What would you have called it?
Peace and stability, yes, but peace and stability that exists in a cemetery. Haiti was a cemetery.
We went to a graveyard, if you can call it a graveyard, dumping ground for bodies near the towns of Bon Repos and Titayen, where local people told us that the Tonton Macouts had just dumped people that they had killed, disposed of them there.
Well, it was known that Titayen was for dead bodies, for people killed by the Tonton Macouts.
Did the Americans know what was happening here in Haiti? The extent of what was happening, the embassies, the State Department, the White House?
They knew, of course. We've been saying that Haiti was America's best kept secret.
If the countryside was a place of terror for some, it was a land of opportunity for anyone with the Duvaliers and the Macouts behind them. Americans could do big business here if they bought the right friends. Butch Ashton built up a multi-million-dollar string of businesses under the Duvaliers. Large American firms that want to invest hire him for his government connections and his knowledge of how Haiti works.
Our famous Tonton Macouts, quote-unquote, were trained by our U.S. Marine Corps, whether we realize it or not, and armed by our United States government as well. We propped up Baby Doc. We kept him in power.
When you say that the Marines trained the Tonton Macoute, what do you mean?
Well, I mean what I said. I'm saying that in 1961-62, we had a U.S. naval mission here that was supposedly training the Army. And at the same time we were training the Army, we were knowingly training the militia, which part of that militia was the Tonton Macoute, but the militia was the Volunteers of Sécurité Nationale. And our weapons, our M1s, our rejected weapons were given to the militia, and our new weapons were given to the Army. And we knew this, and we had actual Marines training these civilians. And anybody that doesn't know this is fooling themselves and not myself, because I was here during that whole period.
The Marines commander later denied knowingly training Macouts. Did you ever see any of the Marines train the Tonton Macoute?
Certainly.
He has seen more of the Macouts than just their training. One of Ashton's many businesses is Haiti Citrus, which grows limes for export to the States. His groves in a place called Bastrac-du-Bizet were once used by local farmers to grow their own food. 10 years ago, the peasants leased their land to his company. When the leases expired last year, the trouble began. Father Franz Grandois and other Catholic priests tried to help the peasants when they were renegotiating with Haiti Citrus. But anyone pushing for a better price or their land back came up against the Tonton Macoute. They say the Macouts resorted to torture to enforce the company's terms. What was the arrangement between the Macoute and Haiti Citrus?
They paid
the commander every 2 weeks.
Pour faire contrôle,
To control, to intimidate, to crush, to break any opposition.
There are peasants in that area, as well as the Catholic Church, that say part of your method was to put a commander of the Tonton-Macoute on the payroll and to use the Tonton-Macoutes to enforce your agreement. Did you do that?
Never. There have been people, the mayor of the area, who happened to be a Tonton-Macoute and is a leader of the area, was in fact not on a payroll, but he was on a consultant basis for security in the fields because of outsiders letting their cattle and their horses loose in our fields.
Macoute. The commander came with 40 Macoutes to this area to attack, to seek revenge.
What specifically did they do?
They would take the people, they would take them to prison, they would beat them. They would tie their hands and feet together with rope, like a ball, and beat them.
What did you say to the allegation itself, that you'd hired Tonton-Macoute to protect your fields?
Absolutely not. Never.
Except this one mayor who was
the mayor, who was a Tonton-Macoute, known Tonton-Macoute, agreed. But he was the mayor. We were aiming at the mayor. We were looking at the judicial system. Now, if part of the judicial system at that time involved Tonton-Macoutes, I don't think we can be responsible for that.
No one has taken responsibility for the Macoutes. After Baby Doc fled, they were formally disbanded, and some were beaten to death by mobs in the streets. Most Macoutes still have their weapons. None has been prosecuted. Last month, while we were there, people were angry at the lack of real change, and when an army captain beat up a taxi driver, that anger exploded. The days of arbitrary arrest and harassment were not over. The new strongmen sent out to keep the peace are called the Leopards, Army shock troops organized by the American military mission in the first years of Baby Doc's rule. The American military attaché at that time told us the Leopard Corps was his idea. The embassy now denies any involvement in their formation.
It was trained by the American military mission. It was equipped by the American military mission. They had the Leopards created as a force to replace the Tonton-Macoutes.
They wanted them to be a counterinsurgency group. At least that's the way it was told to me.
When James Byers got the Haitian government contract to train and equip the Leopards, it was 1971. There was a ban on all direct U.S. military assistance. His Miami firm Aerotrade did privately what the American government would not do publicly. His trainers were all American ex-military men. This is the first time he's talked about the Leopards.
What has happened now is that the Leopards, who are a formal group of soldiers, are now taking the place of the Tonton-Macoute.
Were they a crack unit?
Let me put it this way. They were a hell of a lot better than anything else they ever had down there. But now what they are is Talis-controlled terrorists. And I understand after Jean Claude left that they showed their true colors and went around killing and beating people. That's not what they were trained for, but that's obviously what they're used for now.
After Baby Doc left, one of the first U.S. aid shipments was new riot gear. The heavy arms started flowing 15 years ago through Aerotrade. What kinds of equipment were you bringing in?
Fully automatic weapons, thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition, helmets, uniforms, 30 caliber machine guns, 50 caliber machine guns, 20 millimeter rapid fire cannons. We gave them all of this. Well, they didn't even have toothbrushes or shaving equipment or underwear or anything else.
The CIA knew you were doing all this? How intimately? How much they know what you were doing?
Everything. Everything. They got copies of the contracts.
When we asked the CIA about Aerotrade, what are they going to say to us?
Aerotrade who?
And Washington wouldn't give you any trouble about shipping in all those arms to Haiti.
No. What were they going to do with it? The Haitians. They weren't going to attack anybody. Supposedly that stuff was for these so-called threats of invasion, which was ridiculous. But to any nation like that, they're toys. Unfortunately, the so-called toys that we sent and trained the leopards with were used against the people.
He was going to buy something to bring to the kids. But when he get there, on the street, an army guy called him and tell him to come over. He told him, walk. Army car, hold up him, they beat him up.
The leopards are regular army.
Leopard.
The regime hasn't changed. Only Duvalier is absent.
You don't think these tactics are going to change?
I think they're going to worsen.
The brutality?
Of course, yes.
Why?
Why? Peace and tranquility.
Haitians now refuse to suffer in silence. This leopard victim is paraded for all to see.
If we bring a man like Duvalier in power, and we arm him, and we keep him in power, and then we throw him out, well, I hope we know what we're doing. Because it doesn't make any sense to me. I know one thing. Our U.S. taxpayer is paying for that.
The CIA
divorcee who won the heart of the president for life and changed our country forever. This was Haiti last February, just after the dictator Baby Doc Duvalier fled the country. But what these familiar scenes did not reveal was the extent to which the passions and anger of the Haitian people were focused not just on the dictator, but also on his wife, Michelle Bennett Duvalier.
Oh, the first lady? She's a bum.
Michelle Bennett, she's a prostitute. She made voodoo to take trouble, and all the time she take marijuana.
Spending money, millions and millions of dollars.
Michelle Bennett, everybody called her is a lesbian.
She was a lesbian. She tried to eat all the little children.
For sacrifice.
Okay.
That's what she meant.
Like sacrifice.
No charge about the former First Lady seemed too extreme. Throughout the country, chants and lurid songs about Michelle's sex life rang out on the streets. Graffiti and crude drawings appeared on walls. The body of this Tonton Macoute, a hated Duvalier security policeman, was roasted and paraded through the streets of the capital. When we talked to the people who murdered him, they told us that Michelle Duvalier had ordered the man to poison the water supply of the capital, and that they had killed him before he could carry out her order. Who told the Macoute to do that?
Qui est-ce qui dit Macoute pour faire ça? Michelle Bennett.
Michelle Bennett. But how did it happen that this one woman could have so mobilized the fury of a nation? The story begins 5 years ago in a moment of seeming innocence. June 5th, 1980, in a ceremony so lavish that the Guinness Book of Records lists it as one of the 3 most expensive weddings, Haiti's 28-year-old president for life, Jean Claude Duvalier, marries Michelle Bennett, a divorcee and mother of 2. If it looked to the world like a grotesque demonstration of extravagance in the poorest country in the hemisphere, to most Haitians watching on television, it was enchanting. A storybook wedding of a king and a queen.
They liked her. They liked the queen. They wanted the queen. They had a queen.
Is that the way she saw herself, as a queen?
I don't think she saw herself as anything less than that.
Bernard Saint-Journet, one of Haiti's leading painters, was a favorite artist and frequent dinner guest of Baby Doc and Michelle.
And she suited the role because she was the first person in those 30 years to understand that show business was the name of the business. And her show business was very well done.
As First Lady, Michelle immediately enlisted Haiti's TV network to promote herself as a champion of the poor. and to solicit contributions for her Michelle Bennett Duvalier Foundation. Every day, the elegant First Lady was featured in scenes like this, launching vaccination campaigns, touring hospitals, giving her heart to the people. It was a powerful image that won over even such a symbol of saintliness as Mother Teresa.
I've seen many people coming, and kings and people, presidents and prime ministers, but I have never seen the poor people being so familiar with their heads of state as they were with her. It was a beautiful lesson for me. I have learned something from you. So, thank you.
She was capable of showing that she could be the very best, and in reality, she displayed that she was the very worst.
Joe Namfi, the brother of the new leader of Haiti, a businessman and perennial insider, he explained that an altogether different First Lady was surfacing inside the palace.
She took over literally this country, and within 1 year, she had kicked out of the palace Jean Claude's mother. All of Jean Claude's mother's relatives, 98 of them, were exiled. So she literally went after the Duvaliers with a vengeance. I mean, to literally exert her power.
As president for life, Baby Doc, with his private army of thugs, the Tonton Makou, ruled Haiti with unchecked brutality. But by all accounts, he was always dominated by his sister and mother. And once Michelle purged them from the palace, she emerged as the unrivaled force behind the throne.
It was dumb, because when Michelle was speaking, and she would shut him up. Yes, she would shut him up.
In the cabinet meeting?
Oh, well, she insert anybody at any time. Nobody could resist her.
Oblin Jolicoeur, Haiti's omnipresent journalist and gossip columnist, and recently appointed Secretary of State for Information.
Were people afraid of her?
I beg your pardon. She frightened everybody. And people avoided her try to avoid her because if she doesn't get what she wants, she would cry, she would try to break everything, she would go hysterical.
The system of government that Michelle came to influence so deeply was rooted in corruption. And as First Lady, she demanded a piece of the action for herself and her family. Almost overnight, her father, Ernest Bennett, who was reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy, became a wealthy man. With his daughter in the palace, he paid no export taxes and soon cornered much of the coffee trade. But this was all just a part of the official corruption that had become a way of life in Haiti. The majority of the country's 7 million citizens earn less than $150 a year. And for more than a quarter of a century, the Duvaliers used their power to extort nickels and dimes from every transaction carried out by these desperately poor people. Even U.S. aid shipments were often diverted and sold for profit in the marketplace. By the time of his marriage to Michelle, Baby Doc is said to have amassed a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
He was simply not interested in running a country in a normal way.
What was he interested in?
Money, money, and money.
What about his wife? What was your impression of her?
She was even more greedy than he was himself, because she had to catch up, you see.
When Marc Bazin became Haiti's finance minister in 1982, he quickly became suspect by questioning the national budget, 30% of which, he says, went directly to Baby Doc and Michelle.
So $60 million went for his and her personal use?
Absolutely.
Every year?
Oh, yes. And that was just official open corruption because it was coming out of the budget.
But what about the First Lady's foundation and the millions of dollars she had raised on behalf of the poor?
That was just a cover. Just a cover.
Was she taking a lot of money out of it, you think?
Oh, yes, yes. I believe that was a very important source of income for her.
This scene came to symbolize the blind arrogance of Baby Doc and Michelle's regime. The dictator hurling small change to the poor, while he and his wife extorted hundreds of millions.
Michelle came into the government through the bedroom
and she brought down the government in 5 years through her greed.
Since the 1960s, when he was condemned to death by Papadoc, Ray Joseph, the editor of the Brooklyn-based newspaper the Haiti Observateur, has chronicled the Haitian Revolution. He points to the Pope's visit in March 1983 as the first challenge to Baby Doc and Michelle.
The Pope was going beyond the Duvaliers, standing by him, and telling the Haitian people, I don't agree with what they're doing. We cannot have this scandalous wealth side by side with the abject poverty. Things have got to change. And from that speech of the Pope, the message went out that the Duvalier regime could no longer continue the way it was doing business.
Most every revolution has an event that finally triggers a people to action. Unlikely as it may seem, the incident in Haiti was a television broadcast, shown in squares like this across the country on TVs which the First Lady had installed to show her good works. And what the people of Haiti saw in May of